I thought I was ready, but I was not ready. I guess I better understand why people are like into the show, super more into the show, I guess. Not that I disliked it. It's just like, I just say that for, the majority of seasons 1 and 2, it's just, a really fun, solid little show. I have been enjoying, most of season 2, I would say, is basically, it's more of season 1, with just, some more characters, some different slightly different focuses, as I'll talk about in the non-spoilers section. Then you get the last episode. The last episode does some shit. Let me fucking tell you. Like, I guess I was thinking about is how, like, because I've heard some discourse about it gets better later kind of thing. And I don't really agree with it, in that, like, you probably won't like it by the point, if you didn't like it before, like, it's not like, stick it out for 70 episodes, so you'll like it then. Like, no, that's probably not going to happen if you're just frustrated with it the whole time. A personal example for me is, Gintama, where, I did try to watch it until it gets to the first, Benizakura, the first arc that notable, or, like, first serious arc, I guess. And, I mean, I just didn't click with the anime, and I only really started to get into it when I read the manga, really. And even then, I've never loved Gintama to the level that a lot of people I know do. And I guess another comparison I was also thinking about, like, Jailbreak with Steven Universe, where, like, fucking 50 episodes of the show, you get this actual, like, the story opens up in a big way, and people were really paying attention to the show at that point, because so much of the first part of the story was just introducing the town, introducing these characters, the general, like, setting mechanics and stuff, without the sense of scale that was, opened up with the Jailbreak stuff. And again, I like Steven Universe up to that point, but people definitely, like, got more interested in Steven Universe knowing, okay, it's going somewhere. Like, there's something going on there. So I kind of get it, I guess. So I guess my again, back to, like, would I recommend watching Amphibia now that I have seen season 1 and 2? It's more like I like the show from the beginning. But, it definitely has hit a point, going into season 3 where it's like, okay, it's kind of like that, without spoiling it. But, again, if you don't like it from the beginning, you probably won't care for it when it gets to that point. If you're kind of on the fence, then maybe I'd say, but if you like, ideally you like it from the beginning, like I did, and it's, still good. So going into spoilers, like, most of the season, like, they do a lot of change of locale, which is cool. Like, they start off pretty soon, like, heading to Newtopia. So you have, like, the road trips, and then the stuff in Newtopia. Like, this cool change of setting, which allows for even more, like, cool, like, fantasy locales, and, like, the aesthetic of Newtopia is, like, this kind of, like, Dragon Palace kind of coral aesthetic kind of thing going on, which is neat. I did like the look of Newtopia, and then, of course, you see more, like, I think season 1 only really had, like, frogs and toads, but now you have newts, and there's, like, axolotl people, so a bit more reptiles, basically. I mean, obviously, they're all going to be reptiles, or amphibians. Excuse me. It's like I forgot what the fucking show was called. And yeah, like, it's still a really consistent show, writing-wise, and, it's still got the punchiness and the funny moments. As far as new stuff, Marcy's good. Dopey nerd. Hey, I'm a dopey nerd. She likes RPGs and shit. I like RPGs and shit. Oh my god, she's just like me. Yeah, she's also Clumsy Disaster, which, I can get behind. So yeah, it was neat seeing her, integrate in the cast and just, like, getting more of the the friendship between the three, and Sasha and Marcy. One thing I was kind of worried about with Marcy was that, like she was kind of introduced having, like, an almost a tenuous tie to reality. Like, she's kind of framing, like, yeah, she's in a fantasy adventure thing. But the way she was framing it using, like, game logic and stuff, I was worried that, she knows this is real, right? And she does. Like, it was never questioned her, that she has this, like, she's able to recognize that this is real, even if she's, like, thriving in this world. I was just worried that it's like, is she gonna, like, not consider the frogs people? Like, especially when they got the chess game, and, like, obviously she wouldn't sacrifice Anne, but, Sprig is literally a pawn, and I'm like, are they gonna... No, she valued them in their lives as people, so that was good, and I just slightly, my imagination get ahead of me, I guess. Also, I felt like there were more anime references this season. Like, there was, Like the fucking first episode, they have Veggie Robo, who is very clearly like modeled after Getter Robo. And then there was the one episode where Anne was getting, fashion and armor and makeovers, and one of them she is just Char. She is literally just Char from Gundam. And I'm like, that's a pretty fucking blatant reference right there. And, of course, the final episode where, I'll get to that. Holy shit. I actually was just looking through my notes and I noticed, because I was like, there was one episode where Toadstool, the mayor, the shitty mayor, he's like becoming a better person, and so Newtopia is like, hey, we need a new Toad on Toad Tower. You're kind of a shithead. Let's put you up there. And then it's like, no, but you're actually too good of a person. So and I'm like, why do they want a shithead on Toad Tower? Because they're multiverse spanning galactic conquerors. Gotcha. Oh, that explains a lot, actually. Obviously a lot of the normal people you see, are just, normal people. Like they're and bumped into a few, like on their first day there, like the nacho stand, lady, the old lady who's just reading, then the sprig in the hotel with the, what do they call them? Bellboys? Well, she was a girl. No, they're like the people who move your fucking luggage in a hotel and shit, and you give them tips or whatever. I don't fucking remember what they're called, but yeah, she was literally eating like ice cubes on bread for a meal, and it's very like just little details, right? But there's obviously I don't know, like Newtopia's the more I think about it, the more it's fucked. And even since season 1, Toadstool is obviously like this hideously corrupt mayor. It's just kind of like played as a joke, I guess. Like, wow, like Mr. Krabs, right? Like just haha, capitalist greed, woo, funny. He's not really capitalist. He's just bureaucratic, corrupt. Yeah, like it's fucking. Oh, he's getting slightly better, but just throwing that out there. But yeah, obviously the big thing to talk about is the fucking last episode, which they start off with a content warning, and I'm like, oh. Oh, shit's gonna get good when there's a content warning that some scenes might be too intense for younger viewers, and it's like, ooh, getting spicy, getting a little spicy here. And it's actually interesting because there was until the scene that happened, I actually couldn't because there was because Frobo fucking died and got crushed, and I was like, oh shit, character death is obviously gonna be something to keep an eye on. And then Sprig got thrown out the window, and I'm like, they're not gonna fucking kill Sprig, and they're doing a little montage, and I'm like, okay, you fuckers, don't you dare. And then Marcy literally got impaled, and I'm like, okay, now I understand what it was about, because she got fucking shit. That's clearly a bit, much, I suppose, or understandably why they put the warning there. So yeah, the whole climax was fun, basically, because I legitimately, because they gave me the content warning, there's actually oh shit, I guess obviously no one actually died, but, or at least, well, there was the opening at the end that Marcy still exists in some form, Sprig was fine, they took Frobo parts back to, you could see them in the opening, so I assume they'll be able to, he's a robot, he'll be fine, but I don't know, it was still, and obviously, character death makes thing good. It's just something that was on my mind while watching it, obviously. But yeah, Andreas showed his hand. He's actually a piece of shit, which, it was foreshadowed. Obviously, the fucking episode that ended where he's, praying to his dark elder god or something like that, and he's just, the prophecy will be undone, and I'm like, what the fuck? That was a bit of just a stinger. And, even just because he even mentioned that specifically that, he trusted other people and that's how he lost the Calamity Box, which was obviously, tying into Anne, where she, understandably didn't trust Sasha because Sasha had backstabbed her for about the third time at least the second time in Amphibia. And was like, no, I'm not going to trust you anymore. And I'm like, even though I understand Sasha's perspective, because actually Andreas is maybe kind of a piece of shit. And, but Andreas completely refused to trust anyone, and Anne was, risking becoming more like him by, never trusting Sasha again, which I assume, she worked with her back in the climax, and, that'll be something that I'm sure comes up, later. I guess another contrast I was noticing is just how, like Sasha kind of has this desire to control people. Like she's very direct about it. Like in the talent show episode where she's literally talking to Toadstool's you know lackey, and she mentions how she kind of hates like not being in control, and then he's like, well, there's something freeing about just letting yourself go and letting other people do what they like and stuff. And she learned a little bit of a lesson, I guess, in there, but she's able to shed at least some of that control, even though she's still overall like struggling. Like that's still a pretty important big part of her character, as shown when she did her coup. And she's, I'll just rule the frog world, fuck it, I prefer that to going back home or whatever. Or Marcy, then we get the reveal with her where she knew about the Calamity Box, and like she was moving away and she didn't want to. She wanted to have control over where she was. And so I guess, Anne, I guess she doesn't really have much control, or she's used to being controlled, like with Sasha being manipulative. And she's starting to find herself here, but she's like striking more of a balance between like not obsessing over controlling everything, where Marcy and Sasha are kind of like held back by their need to be in control, I guess. And of course, obviously, the antagonist is a fucking like multiversal conqueror who wants to control literally every world. So yeah, that's gonna go well. Just a little neat little thing I noticed. And then in the fucking climax, as far as anime reference, I mean, not fucking Super Saiyan Anne. Like, I don't know how to describe it other than like Anne achieves Super Saiyan Blue. Especially the part that, aside from it just being like really like animators going off, the part that got me about it was just like because I was like, oh, she always has these leaves and sticks in her hair, like they're deliberately there. Even it's funny, she's constantly in a state of disarray, like and then again when she got her clothing changed, that like we see her sock, and it's her sock, because she's always been like one shoe on, one shoe off. And so her sock is just like horrible and messed up because it's the only one she has, and she's been walking just on that sock for months. And right, so she's just in the state of disarray and has been for the entire show. But then when she goes Super Saiyan, her fucking like there's branches growing, there's even more leaves, like it got kind of a druid thing going on, as she's like glowing blue and beating the ever-loving flying around. Fucking, it was awesome. Okay, that's all I need to fucking say. And she fucking hit him with an AT field, it looked like. I was like, okay, they're just not, like, they're not even hiding it at this point. Like, because at least, like, stuff like Veggie Robo is, even if you assumed it was a mecha, unless you recognize the imagery, I could see you, obviously, I mean, of course you have to recognize it. But this is fucking Evangelion and Dragon Ball. Like, Getter Robo is a little bit, like, again, I mean, speaking as a side channel to an anime channel, like obviously but this is fucking a Western animated show, but like anime is also so big. Like I was watching it just thinking about how anime started off, and manga, like with Tezuka especially, being very influenced by Disney and animation and that stuff. So and now you kind of have it going, it's like become circular, where and I mean, and I say now, obviously, like there's lots of stuff growing up that like Powerpuff Girls or Dexter's Lab, where I didn't recognize the references, but now I would. Like I think, hold on, okay, I don't remember, I couldn't find it, because I just remember it was years ago watching like an interview with Craig McCracken, and he described how like the influences to him were like the Blue Meanie, and he mentioned a character from an older anime, and I swear to God, just assuming, no, maybe, I don't know what character it was, though, so, because I didn't really, like, I obviously wouldn't recognize it as a kid, and this was years ago, so I want to say it's Katzberg from Gatchaman, because, in the original anime, the character has, like, a male form and a female form, so there's, like, a level of, androgyny there, or at least, non-gender conform, because how Gatchaman Crowd's adapted the character is that they just don't seem to have a gender, really, and, like, I mean, at least physically, they seem to be more male, but there's still, like, a level of, like, effeminateness there, effeminacy? Words. But I couldn't find a source for that, so yeah, it was just, like, as an example of, like thinking back just to Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Lab in particular, there's lots of, like, mecha stuff in there, so, I don't know, so, again, I accidentally worded it as though it was a recent thing, but really, it's just, like, yeah, but it's just like I don't know. It's just really stuck out to me as being like, okay, this is fun, and well, maybe less so just like because I guess another way is it reminded me because I think a lot of Western animation that I can think of at least, it's very focused on having very consistent animation. In that, like I've heard with Family Guy, at least with some episodes, like there's like they had to ask animators to animate the show less because like they wanted the show to look less animated, basically, like with character expressions and poses and motions and stuff at some points, because like I guess like which and what I took from that is just like thinking about a lot of the shows I've watched is that they tend to have a like they have a baseline of like this is what the show looks like and they're going to reach that baseline basically. So it's not that often when you get like, and I mean even in anime, like anime definitely has its baseline, but then they'll have moments where, or even whole episodes where it just looks completely different. Like ignorant people will say, "Oh, it's the budget." No, it's not the budget. It's the talent they allocate. Right? Like one example that came to mind while I was saying that is Tropical Rouge Precure episode 29, I think, which is a phenomenal episode visually, and the director of that episode, I think is that the same director who did some of the One Piece episodes in Wano, because I just like so someone who's like really fucking good, and obviously like there's other staff and animators and stuff. So I guess like in comparison, again, like this is like obviously even in Western animation you're gonna have like animators are going to be able to put themselves in their art and and stuff. But I guess like at least in production of Family Guy, which is one animated show, like there's some level of like, okay, make it look like anyone could have animated this, or anyone in the staff could have animated this, if that makes sense. Where like and that's what I guess maybe think about it with Amphibia, where you have this big climactic sequence, like because normally the show I'd say like there's some like the expressions and there's ways that individual or storyboarders and animators can put themselves into it a little bit. But like I don't know, the way the ending scene was very more like just like, hey, here's a really cool action sequence that's doesn't look quite like anything else in the show, if that makes sense, while still keeping the style of the show. Like I'm probably not explaining myself very well, but and it's probably not that interesting. Whatever, let's just stop. It was fun. And then you got the new version of the OP, which I'm probably gonna go watch again after finishing this, because yeah, I guess I could spoil it. They're fucking back home, and the planters are now the ones who are in the other world, and that other world is fucking Los Angeles. We'll see. The ending stinger said that, it said like, oh, this story is just beginning. And I do wonder because I think I was on Wikipedia, and apparently someone mentioned that like this is the third act of the story. So, because from what it looks like half of season 3 is aired, and I just don't know if that's going to be the last season, or if this is like, is it going to be a Steven Universe length story, or is it going to be more of a Gravity Falls length story? I'm leaning towards the latter because Gravity Falls is also a Disney show. There was even a big Gravity Falls reference this season, with where they went to an antique oddities store. And there's definitely there's a frog there, or Toad, who's definitely not Grunkle Stan, even though he's also voiced by the same voice actor, and who's, I'm pretty sure if it's Alex Hirsch who created the show. And there's like a Seuss frog who's just like, it's just a really blatant reference to Gravity Falls, and I was like, okay, that's cute. But so yeah, I'm just knowing, I don't know, because I'd be fine either way. I think it being, because it being longer, it being shorter. But we'll see. Yeah, hopefully I didn't go off too far in the weeds there, but a good season, and I am looking forward to catching up and or finishing the show. So yeah, see you next time, I guess. Hopefully, I don't know. Amphibia is pretty good.